Hi everyone, it's Nancy McNally of Nancy McNally Quilts, designer of Midnight Reflections. And thank you to Wyndham Fabrics for sponsoring this beautiful quilt. Thank you again. All right, so we're going to begin with month 1. So you want to grab your pattern. Make sure you have your reference guide with you because the technique we're going to use for month 1 is in the reference guide, and it's called Magic 8, also referred to as 8 at a time half square triangles. You want to grab your fabrics and get them cut. You're going to need your black, your periwinkle, your... Let me make sure I have all the colors correct before I get going. All right, so you're going to need your periwinkle. You're going to need your sky. Oh, and that piece is scrap. Let's see. And you're going to need your underwater. This was one of my favorite colors. And you're going to need your hot pink, along with, of course, the black, the main background. All right, next you're going to need something to draw a straight line with. So I just grabbed a ruler. You're going to need a pen, some type of fabric marking pen, or maybe you want to use chalk. That is fine. But it needs to be, you need to be able to see the line you're going to draw. You're going to be drawing 2 lines. So I'm going to draw the lines on the back of this fabric so that you can see it on the colors rather than on the black squares. Don't forget, you're also going to need these squares too. So you're going to need your A and your B squares, your rotary cutter. Make sure you're starting this project with a brand new needle. All right, it's time for me to get set up so we can start making our first block, month 1. All right, so first step is, this is a very easy block. It's the friendship star. So what we're going to start out doing is you're going to draw 2 diagonal lines, corner to corner, on the wrong side of each of the fabrics. The hot pink, the periwinkle, the sky, and the underwater. You can do it on the black if you'd like, but just make sure that you can see the lines. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go right sides together. We're going to line these up. Now I oversized these blocks so that we can trim them down. The next step is really, it's very easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of your drawn line on both of the diagonal lines. You're going to do this for all of your B squares, and you're going to match each color B square to a black B square. All right, I also use, bring it over here, I also use a 1/4 inch foot with a fabric guide, and maybe you can see that fabric guide right there. It helps me keep everything aligned, and I'm going to put that fabric guide, once I place this under the presser foot, I'm going to put the fabric guide directly on the drawn line so I can sew an accurate 1/4 inch seam. I will also be sewing with a 2.0 stitch length. All right, so let's get this sewn. All right, so I have already finished sewing and cutting apart the pink. So I have the other 3 colors right here, and I'm going to show you how we cut them apart. I'm just going to use, let's use the sky one right now, and then I'll cut those apart in just a second. Actually, I'm going to move these out of the way because I am going to rotate my mat. Okay, so in order to cut these apart so that we get all of our half square triangles, we need 8 of them from each of our colors. We need to cut apart on that drawn line, and then we're going to cut apart in half. So half north and south is somebody, I know another teacher says that, but top to bottom you're going to cut in half, and from side to side you're going to cut in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my ruler, and what I do is I run that edge from the diagonal and put it right by the drawn line, right on the drawn line. Open up this, there we go. We're going to cut. Now I'm not going to separate them. Don't separate them. Leave them together. And now let's just rotate the mat. If you have a revolving mat, that works fantastic. Okay, so now let's do this one. So now I'm going to cut the other diagonal. I'm cutting directly on the drawn line, not on the stitching line. Okay, this one moved a little bit, so I'm going to push it back in here so that it all stays together. Okay, so everything's together in the center. Now in the next step, I'm going to use my ruler, and the midpoint needs to run. I've got the, excuse me, the line, a registration line on the ruler on the bottom of this square, and I have a line, another registration line running along the side, and I have the edge right here where all of the triangles are coming together. So we're going to cut there. Okay, now we're going to turn the mat one more time. Everything is still together. Yay! Repeat the same thing. We're going to put it right there on the bottom and right there, here and here. And we're going to cut it in half. And now I have 8 half square triangles. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Wasn't that easy? All right, so on your next step, once you separate all of them, you're going to press towards the dark, and then we need to trim them to the right size. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I trim half square triangles. Now, you choose the size ruler that you want to use for this. I always go to my 6.5 inch ruler because it's the easiest one for me to use. So on our first step, we're going to run the diagonal line that's on the ruler directly on this diagonal seam in our half square triangle. Let's move these a little out of the way. There we go. Place it directly on there, and then you're going to pull your ruler down to the bottom corner until you get to the measurement, the size that we're supposed to trim to. Now, I'm going to be lucky here today. I'm going to trim here and here. But if you're not lucky and you have to trim all 4 sides, then we're going to do like this. I'm going to do that one today. Okay, so we're going to go here. And then I'm going to trim on the top. Notice I didn't move the ruler at all. I left it in place. Now I'm going to take this bottom corner. I'm going to rotate the block so that it moves up here to the top right position. Place the ruler back on. Align that 45 degree on the diagonal seam. The measurement that we need to trim to, place that on the outer 2 edges of your half square triangle and trim. All right, you're going to do that to all of your half square triangles. This gives you wiggle room so that you can have an accurate sized block. All right. Let me finish ironing these, and I got to finish cutting these apart and trim them to size, and then I'll meet you right back here and we'll put the block together. As you can see, I have my friendship star laid out. So we have the periwinkle and the hot pink, and then the sky and the underwater. So they're across from each other. So you're going to lay it out just like this. So you have your A squares, and then you have your B half square triangles. All right. So now it is time to pull these together. So we're going to do this just like a normal 9 patch. So if you've never sewn one of these blocks before, this is the first time. I promise it's very easy. It's one of the simplest blocks to make. So we're going to go right sides together with the top block in the center. We're going to go right sides together with that one. Now I'm going to chain piece. And by the way, I am using black thread. Don't remember if I said it, but I am also using a 2.0 stitch length. Now I'm going to take this one and go right sides together. Got my raw edges lined up. Now I chain piece these. So let's get the threads cut apart. Now you could go ahead and sew the 3rd one from each row if you would like. I'm going to, I always cut them apart. All right, so now I'm going to lay it back out the way it's supposed to be, and then I join the 3rd block to each row, or the 3rd shape. All right, so now let's go right sides together to this one. Make sure that your half square triangles are facing in the correct direction so that we get a true friendship star. Go right sides together for the middle one. And our bottom one, and then the next step will be to join our rows. Now I did finger press as I went along. So, ow, that was my ring. So now I'm going to, I'm going to trim these apart and then I'm going to press them with the iron. So I will be right back. All right, so let's lay this back out. This is our middle row. Lay it back down. Here's my bottom row. And here is my top row. Now, we need to nest our seams, and we're going to go right sides together with the top row to the center row. So if you've never nested seams or you were unsure about it, let me fold this back so you can see. It might be hard to see. We're going to butt this seam right here where this square joins the half square triangle. We're going to butt that seam up to this seam right here. I have to turn it back around and then do it again. There we go. So I always use pins for this. So you always want to nest your seams first. Start in the center of the block and then work out. And do your corners last. So I just nested these. Let me place a pin in them right here. Do not sew over your pins also. Okay, now let's go line up our corners. We're going to make sure our edges are lined up. I'm going to place a pin in there. Same thing over here. I want to make sure that these are lined up. You know, if you really focus and nest your seams and line up your edges and you place pins in them, you're more than likely have to rip seams less. All right, so let's get this one sewn. So there's half, or actually it's 2/3. So let me get this pressed and then we'll join the bottom row. And also refer to your pattern so that you know the pressing directions. And on this pattern, I have put the pressing arrows in white because black pressing arrows will not show up on black fabric. Also, if you prefer to press your seams open, you go right ahead and do that. That is perfectly fine. All right, now we're going to join the bottom row to the center row. Turn it around so that I can see. I'm going to nest these seams. We're going to butt these two seams right up next to each other. Always do your seams first and start in the middle and then work out. And you know what? With black fabric, it's hard to see if you don't line your seams up. Okay, so let's get these. And this one over here. There we go. And if it feels like there's a little fullness in them, don't worry too much about it. Just line everything up. If you line your corners up and line your, you've got your center seams up, the feed dogs will fill, or they will make that fullness fit in. All right, so let's get this last seam sewn. All right. There we go. Whoop, let's put it this way. Now I haven't pressed it yet. So you're going to need to make 8 of these friendship star blocks. Let me give this a press. All right, there we go. Month 1 is done. Remember, make 8 of these. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.